Hello, and welcome to the Daily Rings of Power podcast, your daily dose of the latest news, rumours, and speculation about the Lord of the Rings of Power. The day is Wednesday, July 27, and I'm your host, Harry. I hope you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. Before we kick off today's show, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who listened to our pilot episode yesterday. The positive feedback was slightly overwhelming, but I do hope you will keep coming back and join me each day. I've said it before, but getting to connect with passionate Tolkien fans around the world is one of the great joys of this community. As we did yesterday, I think there's no better way to start these episodes than with a reading from the Professor's work. Today, our reading comes from The Lord of the Rings, Book 4, The Window on the West. We begin with Faramir talking to Frodo. We in the House of Denethor know much ancient lore by long tradition, and there are moreover in our treasuries many things preserved, books and tablets writ on withered parchments, yea, and on stone, and on leaves of silver and of gold in diverse characters. Some now can none read, and for the rest few ever unlock them. I can read a little in them, for I have had teaching. It was these records that brought the Grey Pilgrim to us. I first saw him when I was a child, and he has been twice or thrice since then. "The Grey Pilgrim?" said Frodo. "Had he a name?" "Many are my names in many countries," he said. "Mithrandir among the elves, Tharkun to the dwarves, Olorin I was in my youth in the west that is forgotten, in the south, Incarnus, in the north, Gandalf, to the east, I go not." I hope you were able to bear with my impersonations there. Voice acting is sadly not a skill of mine. The reason I chose this passage will become clear as we move into the episode. However, I think it's a wonderful illustration of the way Tolkien used names and the meaning of those names to add extra layers of depth to his stories. In the Legendarium, a name can foreshadow greatness or predict a tragic downfall, but names are rarely used lightly. Now, for those who follow me on Twitter, you may have seen yesterday that snippets from the Total Film magazine feature had made their way onto social media. One particular reveal from the magazine was a name being used for Joseph Mull's character, who we expect to be one of the primary villains in Season 1. Later in the episode, I'll get into the absolute nightmare that is this character's name, but I thought, to start with, for any listeners who have only recently started following the Rings of Power, it might be useful if we did a quick recap of everything we know about the mysterious black-clad figure. And who knows, maybe we can make a guess at this character's identity along the way. I'm going to start off with the visual clues we've been given before diving into community rumours and speculation we all might have. Our first glimpse came with the release of character posters back in February of this year, with one particularly striking poster showing a figure dressed all in black, his hand covered with a spiked gauntlet holding the hilt of a particularly cruel and evil-looking sword. Now, this may be a case of looking too closely, but if you look at the design of the armour on his chest, it does seem to contain a faded pattern. To me, it looks like swirling silver waves on the black field of his armour. Where might we have seen that pattern before? Well, we've seen it twice. The first time on Elrond's silver costume, and the second time on the back of a character at the banquet scene with Gil-galad we first saw in Empire magazine. Keep both of those in your mind as we look for other visual clues moving forward. The next time we saw him was in the main teaser trailer released earlier this month. It was a blink and you'll miss it moment, but in the scene where we see a band of orcs with torches marching up a stone bridge, you can see a black-clad figure leading them. There's little to no visual clues here, except that along with the orcs, our mysterious villain appears to be flanked by a human figure. I speculated recently that the show may be giving our villain a Grima Wormtongue type lackey, most likely to allow us to have dialogue that will shed light on the character. Shortly before Comic-Con, we received our first full poster for the character. There are two important visual clues in this image. The first is his sword, which we can now see has a broken crossguard and a hilt that looks melted as if by fire. Despite the damage, the sword does look oddly familiar. The design of the crossguard looks incredibly similar to the swords we've seen both Galadriel and other elves wielding in the footage so far. Most striking to me in this image is the worn-down chainmail on his shoulder. If you look closely, you can see there are decorative stars upon the mail. Sharp-eyed listeners will recognise the design of this armour. It bears a striking resemblance to Galadriel's chainmail, also adorned with stars. In a close-up picture provided by Tea with Tolkien, who attended the Rings of Power party at Comic-Con, we can see that Galadriel's armour is practically littered with these stars. While some have wondered why Galadriel appeared in early promo shots to be wearing an 8-pointed Feanorian star, it's clear from this image that there are 6 and 12-pointed stars as well. No doubt this is a reference to the elves' love of the stars, and maybe even a tribute to Vardar, the Valar most associated with the heavens and the stars. When you put all these visual clues together, it does seem like the overwhelming evidence suggests this character is an elf. Or, should I say, he was an elf once upon a time, clearly having been corrupted in some manner. Why he is now leading a band of orcs and appears to be on the warpath is a question we have few answers to at this time. We'll now discuss rumours, and I always want to preface discussions of rumours that this is exactly what they are. I have great faith in community outlets like the One Ring and Fellowship of Fans, but until it's confirmed by the show, it is best to not solidify these rumours as facts in our minds. Now, the longest running rumour we've had from Fellowship of Fans is that this character's name is Adar. See, listener? I did promise we'd eventually come back to the names. Adar is a word meaning father in the Elvish language of Sindarin, but it does appear very sparsely in Tolkien's writing. It appears once in The Lord of the Rings, where fan-favourite character Tom Bombadil is referred to by Elrond as also having the name Iarwain ben Adar, meaning oldest and fatherless. While you may not have caught it, the word also appears in Peter Jackson's The Two Towers. In a conversation between Elrond and Arwen in Sindarin, Elrond asks whether he does not also have his daughter's love, to which Arwen responds, Gerich veleth nin, Adar, which means, you have my love, father. While I don't expect the orcs to use Adar in such a tender way, it is interesting to think about. In the same way that orcs were twisted elves, the use of a Sindarin term for a parent is equally twisted for this character. Fellowship of Fans also reported that Adar is the name that the orcs under his command chant as they march to battle, something that can be briefly heard in the main teaser trailer. Given that we know from the IGN article that the orcs in this time have been leaderless and scattered, and that the orcs in at least one iteration of Tolkien's writing were once elves who were twisted and corrupted, this connection makes a lot of sense to me. So, there we were, listener, all happy calling this character Adar, hoping that his true name and origin would be revealed in the show, when Total Film stepped in. Thanks to my friend on Twitter, Ainulindale14, we got an extract that referred to the character as follows, quote, Joseph Maul as the mysterious Oren. The hair and makeup team tell Total Film that his look was the hardest to get right. Make of that what you will. End quote. Unsurprisingly, this sent fans, myself included, into a frenzy. Was this his real name? What did it mean? Is there a Tolkien character called Oren at all? I'll answer these in reverse order. No. There is no existing Tolkien character called Oren. As for what it means, well, thanks to the useful resource of the Elvish language website Parth Athelen, we have a partial answer. Oren is a word that only appears in Tolkien's early conceptions of the Noldorin language, where Oren appears as an adjective, meaning hot. No sooner were fans blushing over the Season 1 villain being called Hot Father than when a bucket of ice water was dropped upon us. A sharp-eyed Twitter user pointed out to me that Oren was just a code name that had been used all along in the audition scripts for the show. Well, that settled the matter, didn't it? A mistake by Total Film, but not a name we should be holding on to. Unfortunately, listener, no, it did not mean it was settled, as only a few hours later, Jack Shepherd, who had penned the article for Total Film, swooped in to let us know that Oren was indeed the name that the makeup artists used for the character. Now, this may still have been a codename, but it's clear this name had persisted into production and was still being used by those working inside the set, who no doubt were also under NDAs. Should we despair at this labyrinth of nominative nonsense and accept the nihilistic answer of never knowing this character's name? I think not. All of this leads us back to where we started today's show, the importance of names. The showrunners understand as well as we do that names carry great weight for Tolkien, and the fact that they are so keen on hiding the true name of Joseph Moore's character is telling. Clearly, we can surmise he is an elf fallen into darkness, perhaps twisted and corrupted, especially given the fact the makeup team were so concerned about getting his look right. Is he perhaps related to Galadriel, as Fellowship of fans have rumoured? Is he a Feanorian elf, following his ancestors down a tragic path? Or is he something else entirely? I highly doubt the show is going to change the fate of an existing Tolkien character. As we know, they're working closely with the Tolkien estate to respect existing canon. But, as we've seen with Isildur's new sister Eärien, they are able to invent original characters to sit within existing family trees. I would not be surprised if Adar is indeed some relation of Galadriel, even if he is not her brother. However, and this is just my comment, if they do want to make it an existing brother, please, Rings of Power, make it Orodreth, because Orodreth sucks. I have many ideas, but no answers that feel right to me. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments, so let me know, and perhaps on a future episode we can discuss who the most likely candidates are and what implications that would have for the story. Now, I know we didn't get to the rest of the Total Film feature, but you must forgive me, listener, as I haven't yet managed to snag a copy. I promise I will resume my quest today, and all being well, tomorrow we'll see what other hidden gems of information we can discuss. But for today, that's all we have time for. I hope you enjoyed this slightly different episode to yesterday. I realise it turned into a discussion of just one character. Hopefully, you enjoyed it just as much as I did talking about it. As I said during the show, I do want this to be a conversation between us, so definitely leave your thoughts and speculations in the comments. I've already had one suggestion from a listener for a topic we can cover on a future episode, so let me know what you'd like to hear about. As with the last episode, you can find all the links to the tweets, articles and pictures I've discussed in the episode description down below. Check those out for more information and to delve deeper into the topic we've discussed today. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with more discussion of the latest news on the Daily Rings of Power podcast. Namarie.